Alright guild, let's do this again. King Cosma here, and this will be another class overview video. Today we're going to discuss the shooting star class known as Etoile. Etoile is a melee oriented frontline tank with enough utility and survivability to support fellow party members while also barraging through enemy hordes, making this class a must-have in any group. Etoile specializes in using wand, dual saber, and soaring blades, and each weapon comes with an arsenal of abilities to handle any situation. Etoile will is a bit different from other will abilities in the game. This time, when you are near death, you will regain full HP and PP, restore your focus meter, and gain invincibility for a short time. Recast save makes Etoile a great support to have in party, reducing cooldown of all active skills from any player who isn't already in Etoile. And lastly, the Overdrive ability, this time instead of being a time or finish ability like Hero or Phantom, Etoile will restore HP and PP for everyone in the party while also increasing max PP, making it a great support during boss battles. Moving on to the weapons, first we have Wand. Being the strongest weapon of the class, it's an all-round type weapon and is highly favored by most players. Wand is supported with wide AoE photon arts, allowing you to take on any large enemy hordes. With the ability known as Focus PAs, Wand has the ability to use more powerful target focus PAs, but at a cost to range, this at times making it ideal for larger enemies or bossing. Using Wand's plus ability, it will scale power depending on if you have higher melee or tech attack. Wand's weapon action is called Charge Protect. This ability will summon a barrier that blocks attacks while draining focus meter. Holding this ability will make Protect stronger, and depending on how much focus you pour into this barrier, when finally released, it will do one of 3 stages of attacks, from a weaker projectile to a massive burst of energy, dealing immense damage to enemies. This weapon is packed with a lot of abilities, so be sure to get in as much practice as you can. Now, let's move on to Dual Saber. Dual Saber comes with an array of PAs, basically turning 4 PAs into 8 due to its long animation. Dual Saber has an ability called Skip Arts. This allows players to skip the first half of PAs by not using a directional input when activating a PA, making it easier to choose how you want to execute them versus large hordes or bosses. Dual Saber weapon action is a backflip known as Deflect. Deflect can be followed up by using a weapon action again, acting as an optimal counter, and if it lands, it will do increased damage. As you build the weapon gauge, you will see 3 nodes that will fill until the gauge is full. As long as you have 1 node, you will take reduced damage when hit, up to 75%. You can also use the gauge meter to do more powerful normal attacks by holding the attack button down for an enhanced version. Last weapon is the Soaring Blades. This weapon comes with an edge ability that will send illusionary blades to the target as part of your PAs. Where the weapon lacks in speed and range, it makes up for with powerful attacks and PAs. The weapon action will summon a shield used to parry incoming attacks even while attacking. As you parry attacks, you will build focus gauge even faster, and when using your weapon action after a dash, you can perform the ability Step Edge. And when chained with a weapon action 2 more times, you will activate Full Connect, dealing massive damage in the form of a mid-range vertical sword slash and a beam of light. Alright, so since I don't really know too much about Etoile, and I'm still kind of learning here myself, I just kind of figured that we'll go through this and I'll try to explain everything as best as possible, so please bear with me. First off, we're going to start with some of the counter systems that come with the weapons, just because I have to kind of change Rock Bear here afterwards. So it's going to be a lot easier to go into the counters first and pretty much how they work. Alright, so first off, we'll start with the counter that is on the Dual Sabers. Dual Sabers, basically, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's just the optimal counter, just as I said earlier. As you hit your weapon action, your character will do a backflip that you will then follow up with another weapon action. Now, if you counter an actual attack, you will then do an enhanced damage version of this. So basically, let's go ahead and summon a Rock Bear. We'll let him come out, and then we'll try to bait in a little counter here just so I can show it off. You will notice it when you hear a swing-like sound right after you hit the counter. So just 1, 2, 3, and then you will do an enhanced damage. As you saw, that did up to about 70k, where normally it would only do about 40. As you can see, you know, 40k, and then down to another 10k there. Now, going into the Soaring Blades. Soaring Blades parry is kind of difficult to master at first, but very easy to use. As long as you're hitting your weapon action, these swords will come around your body, parrying any attack. That also goes for when you are going into Step Edge. You get a parry with that as well. even when you're going into your full connect, you're also getting more parries. Now, this actually does not cost anything for you. Like, this is no PP reduction, no gauge reduction, just a free parry that you can use anytime you want, even while attacking and using PAs. As you can see, I'm able to activate a parry for my character, basically guarding me against anything while also building some meter. So unfortunately, this doesn't do anything for your character, but I mean, just to be able to protect yourself while attacking is always great. You are a tank, but does not mean you have to constantly eat damage. As you can see, there's been a little bit there, and I'm able to pretty much just block any attack coming my way, even little grabs like that. So there's also protect for wand. Protect is pretty simple. So as you have your gauge, I just went up and got a little bit of a gauge, just to kind of show it off. As you pour your focus into it, you will have a barrier that comes up. This isn't the barrier, but as you saw, it kind of flowed around me just for a little bit. That barrier will protect you against enemy attacks as long as you have a gauge. Once the gauge is filled, you can go into 1 of 3 stages of attack, but you will be able to dodge, or excuse me, block off enemy attacks coming your way. All right, so now coming into training mode, now let's kind of just talk about all of the PAs and whatnot and just kind of go over them, so you can get a better look at what I was talking about. Coming into this with the Soaring Blades, you will see that it is just 3 normal attacks. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Very simple, very easy to do. Next up, we have PA number 1, which PA number 1 is just 2 quick jabs that go into illusionary blades to do a horizontal slash into the enemy, dealing some extra damage. Always remember, every PA does those illusionary blades. Now, a nice little gimmick about this is that you can actually dash out and let the illusionary blades do that damage for you while you go into another PA or continue attacks in another way, right? Now you have your weapon action. Now earlier we were talking about the parry system. As long as you are pressing your weapon action, you initiate a parry that can dodge any attacks. But there's also 2 other stages to this as well. As long as you are dashing and you use weapon ability, you initiate a step edge. Step edge is an ability that allows you to send blades towards the enemy in a long range fashion. This does not use any meter, this does not use any PP, but this also allows you to build some PP and build meter as well. Now, when connecting that ability into 2 more weapon actions, you can go into a connect to a full counter. So basically, by using weapon action again, and 1 more time, you can go into a full connect, which unleashes a vertical slash, dealing massive damage in the form of light. As you saw, that light just kind of went behind his feet and just went all the way in the back. It is a ranged ability. Now, this ability can also be shortened just by using a ring that's on a character known as Easy Full Connect. As long as you make that first connect and you hold the button down, will immediately go into a full connect without the added slashes. Like, that's that whole second part, basically. We have PA number 4, which PA number 4 is just a forward motion slash. Now, this is really a good get-in tool because you don't really have that many get-in tools. Even the first PA, as you can see, is not that range. And when you use your normal attack here, as you can see, it's not really that much range to it. And if you're not really locked onto the enemy, you don't really go anywhere. So it's really cool to have that ability to be able to get in on your opponent, especially with a weapon that is so mid-range. And then we have PA number 5, which PA number 5 is a sort of mid-range hop, but it does get you some altitude, especially for enemies that have hit spots that are a little bit higher up. So this allows you to kind of gain that altitude that you can cancel into normal attacks and just start attacking wherever you want. Okay, and then PA number 6 is more helpful than it may seem with its long range slashes, attacking the enemy, giving you some distance from the enemy while also sending illusionary blades to deal more damage. This is a cool thing that I like to do if I'm feeling like I'm about to die, or I just need to back up while the enemy does their thing. I can still attack from afar without having to worry about too much. Now, stepping into the wand, we'll talk about the weapon action first for the wand. So the weapon action is pretty simple. As long as you have a little bit of meter, you're able to do a little teleport into a blast here. This will just use a little bit of meter, but the blast itself will also gain some of that meter back, so you don't have to worry about too much. Now, for the second stage of this ability, you just want to look for a little ding. That ding will initiate a short burst of energy that will deal damage to all enemies around you. And lastly, see if I can get enough focus gauge here. So basically, as you have some energy, you want to pour that into your barrier. As you see, you still have that protection from you as well. And then once you release that protect, you'll do massive damage to the enemy, just as you see here, and all enemies around you with a little final explosion like attack. Now going into the PAs, as you see, one does have a very normal 3 PA system just like everything else, or 3 normal attack system just like everything else. And the best thing about it is you are able to move around with this, so it makes it easier to deal with mobs of enemies and even bosses just to get out of the way without having to do anything like dashing or any PAs to kind of move for you that waste PP. And this is really great considering that Juan's focus PAs, they end up using a lot of PP as well. Okay, now as we go into PA number one is just a backflip into a sending of energy that goes directly towards the enemy, and when focused, it does a more mid-range version of that attack, but this does a lot more damage than what the original version of this attack does. So the thing about focus PAs is that they're a lot easier to deal with on bosses, so that you can deal more damage to more critical spots, and making one a pretty versatile weapon. To PA number 4. PA number 4 is just a backflip into the air, again gaining yourself that altitude, which is really cool because sometimes you want to reset that altitude on enemies such as Persona. Say if you're attacking his mask, you want to reset that altitude and be able to keep dealing that damage over time without having to use PAs and use that extra PP, right? The focus version of this PA is just a short blast going down. It's a lot different and a lot faster. You're just kind of cutting that time for an enhanced version of this attack. And as we go into PA number 5 is basically a black hole that sucks in all enemies around you while dealing that overtime damage due to the short explosion time that comes afterwards. And when focused, the overtime damage, the time per second is actually increased, but the damage that comes afterwards is increased as well. All right. And last we have the beam of light here, which is PA number 6. This PA basically allows you to shoot a full charge of light to enemies and can be aimed via over the shoulder mode, and when focused turns into a mid-range blast that deals a pretty decent amount of damage to enemies. As you can see, the blast range doesn't really go too far, but the damage definitely makes up for it. This again is really good for bossing enemies and dealing that extra damage just to kind of get by. And lastly, and probably the weapon with the most utilities I'm finding out so far, has to be the Dual Saber. Dual Saber I am finding to be a lot of fun. Again, I don't really know too much about Etoile, so I've been taking my time trying to practice with this weapon, and this is probably the most fun weapon out of all. As you can see, the normal attack is just 3 simple slashes. Nothing too heavy there. Now, there's a funny thing about the gauge meter below. Now, that meter, as long as you have one node at the bottom, will be able to reduce incoming attack that hits you, and it's just great. And you can do it up to 3 times just by filling up that meter. Now, you can also expend this meter by doing an enhanced version of your normal attack just by holding down the normal attack button. That deals pretty decent damage. I'm not really going to say massive, but it's pretty decent even just for that little bit of bar that you can get back just so easily by doing PAs and whatnot, right? Now we have the PAs, which PA number 1 is basically a short burst of light. Now, here's the thing about this PA. With Dual Saber, you have an ability called Skip Arts. Skip Arts basically allow you to take what normally would be this PA, which is PA number 1, and by using a directional input, you're able to extend the duration of that PA. And Skip Arts is basically, if you do not use a directional input, you will be able to cut to the the half of the PA and only use the second half. So you'll be able to completely skip all of this and immediately go into this, which is a lot easier for bossing and mobbing. It basically just lets you kind of choose how you want to play, and this creates a bit of optimal gameplay for players. I really love this, especially as for someone who plays fighting games. This is really great, being able to choose how you want to fight, right? Next up we have is the weapon action, which the weapon action is the deflect dodge as we talked about earlier, but can also work in ways of giving you some PP. By just pressing the button multiple times, you're able to get some PP back up while also getting some gauge. This does not use any gauge, does not use any PP as well to get. It's just a really good way of dealing consistent damage on top of, any PA that you want to do. The weapon action can also be used after using a PA. You will see that little beam of light there. And when using the weapon action, you can kind of go into a little connect. dealing some extra damage, which you can also do with the weapon action again, just by chaining that light with the weapon action. And this does more damage than just basically using the weapon action, which, as you can see, does a lot more damage. Okay, so next up we go into PA number 4. PA number 4 is just a series of slashes, and when done with a move variant, basically just adds a third slash ability. Okay, and then when going into your PA number 5, this is the move variant of that PA number 5, but when standing still, you can activate the skip art and then just initiate those blades coming down on the enemy from a far distance. And with PA number 6, you're able to come down with your blade connected to your feet, basically, and just kick an illusionary blade into the enemy. Now, when you are standing still and you are initiating the skip art variant of this ability, you can just go straight into the kick, dealing some massive damage. That ability does hit multiple targets as well, and that kick is really cool just to be able to kind of reset your high ground. You know, if you want to come down just a little bit, you can just kind of reset there and attack the enemy and just kind of keep your altitude. Last up, we have the Overdrive ability, which I'm going to go ahead and like expend some PP here just for a little bit. The Overdrive ability, when used, basically just restores all of your PP and restores your HP for everyone in your party, but it also increases your maximum PP. As you can see, I just skyrocketed my PP over to 230, which is really great, again, for bossing enemies and whatnot. This is really cool. I mean, basically Etoile is just a frontline tank with massive support capabilities, being able to help your team as much as possible. And I mean, just doing what you can, man. Honestly, I'm having a lot of fun with this. I'm sorry if this video wasn't as informative as other things. I'm going to try to get some more information and do a whole skill tree overview at another period of time. It's just for now, this is something that I'm kind of just taking on with a whim here. I hope this was informative to some point, kind of helping you guys figure out this class a little bit more, or just kind of getting a better look at the PAs and how they work. So as always, I will be live with PSO2 on episode 6 as soon as I get back from work, just kind of going into everything and playing Phantom and just kind of gauging the community, how you guys feel about these classes. And I'll even be helping some people level up while also talking about these classes as well. So if you would like to, please make sure you go ahead and follow me at twitch.tv/KingCosma, and I will see you guys on episode 6 release day. Until next time, guys, and may your guiding light shine.